tank at the IWA, and we have a long track record of shaping debates and influencing change in Wales through policy research and advocacy, our online and print publications, which provide platforms for robust comment and debate, and our agenda setting events. We're a membership organisation with members right across the country and much further afield. We're funded by our members, the events we run ourselves, and independent trusts and foundations. We have members who are organisational members, charity members, universities, third sector organisations, private businesses as well, and lots of individuals. So if you would like to join us, do please get in touch. UWP, Understanding Welsh Places, is a series, this festival is a series of 3 online events supporting and inspiring, we hope, local communities, decision makers, planners and policy makers to make positive changes to the places where they live and work. Today is the final day of our festival. We had hoped to be meeting in person in Wrexham in June, and obviously coronavirus has put paid to that, unfortunately. So we're really grateful to you all for giving up your time to coming today. On Tuesday, we discussed understanding the data of our place, and Professor Scott Alford, who's part of our consortium of partners, walked us through the UWP website. I hope you've had a chance to play around on it since then. He explained the data, the analysis, how the website can work for you, and provided a really detailed update on the new data coming to the site this year, which my colleague Ellen Jones is working on. Ellen, can you give us a wave, please? Thank you. Great. We also heard a case study from Llanelli Town Council on what town and community councils in Carmarthenshire have done to enact a positive change in their community WP up to now. A lot about the cultural changes involved in working together differently. Yesterday, we focused on shaping the future of our towns and communities. We discussed the importance of our high street, the lifeblood of our communities, while panellists stressed the importance of cooperatives in improving town and city centres and the buy-in from the community, plus the importance of putting trust in our communities. We also heard from Matt Baker, who took us through the extraordinary journey of Dumfries, a place that had been depopulated and turned into a ghost town after 6 o'clock when everybody went home. What he showed us was a really grassroots-led initiative which allowed people to create the town they wanted to see and live in. Both of these sessions are already available thanks to technologically wizardry to watch on our YouTube channel, and a link is in the chat for you now to watch later on if you didn't manage to come before. Today, we're going to be discussing the importance of telling the story of your place. We know that it's not only about the data, it's also about the story and what that means to people, and how you connect that story with people who live and work in places. Obviously, places in Wales are uniquely different, which is part of the huge charm of our nation. But this does mean that getting policy right at a national level can be tricky, which is why we, with the support of Carnegie UK Trust, have developed the Understanding Welsh Places website with a consortium of partners. These have included town and community councils, local authority regen people, academics looking at towns, third sector organisations, the Federation of Small Businesses, and others. UWP is a bilingual website that presents information on the economy, demographic makeup and local services of more than 300 places in Wales in a really quick and easy format. You don't need to be a techie geek to access it. At the IWA, we firmly believe that communities should have the tools to better understand their area, so that local planners, activists, businesses and charities have the right information to help them, support them to understand their uniqueness and individuality in order to help their places thrive. We make no bones about telling people how they should be using this data. It's up to them, totally up to them. What we're trying to do is bring together publicly available data in a really quick and easy to use place and way. We're going to hear this morning from inspiration from 2 different places in Wales who've taken unique approaches to do this, provide you with some knowledge through our workshops, and hopefully ignite some really helpful conversations between people and places through networking. The point about the networking session is to meet people you don't know, so we'll try that out a bit later on. On housekeeping first, this is taking place as a normal Zoom, what's normal about Zoom? As a normal Zoom meeting rather than a webinar. Participants are going to be muted by the host, and we're going to use the sidebar chat for questions for the first half of the event. Please ask your questions to the panel through the Q&A moderator. Use the sidebar to send the moderator a question by using the drop-down arrow that says to moderator. And Ellen is just going to change her name, so it says moderator, not IWAT. Excellent. Please remember that all chat questions are recorded. And as we move to the second half of the event for workshops and networking, Ellen will unmute you all so that everybody can engage relatively normally on Zoom. Okay. That's all the admin stuff over. Let's move on to our first session. We're really delighted to be joined by representatives from 2 places in Wales that have been doing some great things in their communities. Firstly, Councillor Clive Davies. Clive, can you give us a wave, please? Thank you. Who's the Mayor of Cardigan Town. Zoom waves are odd, but they are helpful, I think. Welcome, Clive. Cardigan obviously is on the coast of West Wales, very rural place. But over the last few years, Cardigan's become an example of a town really making the most of its assets. Can you tell us a bit about how you've managed to create a place that's really responsive to the community's needs, please?
Will do. I've got some slides to support my part of this presentation, so I'll crack on, shall I?
Do, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So hopefully everyone can see now. This is a lovely picture of Cardigan on a good day. And so I've got a series of slides explaining how we got to where we are today with some of the things that we've done. So a bit about Cardigan, almost 1,000 years old now, but over 900 years of history there. Current population is about 4,500 people. It's got an amazing creative and heritage element to it. A lot of great people doing great things in the town. In terms of its economy, it's mostly around tourism and agriculture. There's a bit of retail and a very small amount of light manufacturing as well. And one of the USPs for Cardigan, it's got over 80 independent traders in retail and hospitality. So it creates a bit of a draw for people to come along to see something different. Myself, yeah, born and raised in Cardigan, schooled in Cardigan, went away for a few years and then decided to come back and have been here ever since. Also, I've been mayor before. I was mayor in 2016-17, and I'm also mayor this year as well. I've also worked my way up, and now I'm also a Cardigan County Councillor, and I've been given the honour of being the digital champion for the county to look at how we can enhance the use of digital technology throughout the county as well. I'm also something which I'm going to lead on to talk, one of the founding members of an organisation called 4CG, and a forum called the Town Centre Partnership, which we created back in 16. So just to go back, a decade or so, possibly, a lot of good things happened in Cardigan. We had the creation of Theatre Muldan, an amazing venue for hosting all sorts of events. Small little theatre with a bunch of really creative people thinking outside the box and how they can look at the environmental aspect and using art and creativity to put that message across. Cardigan Castle, through a lot of work by a group of volunteers, managed to get the castle restored, and it's up and running now, and it has a number of features within it that people can come along and see. And then many years ago, we also had an improvement grant allowing all the shops to go for shop frontage improvements, so enhancing the look of the town. And also what also happened as well, that technology and the internet came along as well, and how that could be used in terms of how you develop a town centre. And then I mentioned about 4CG, which I'll go on to next, how that also influenced some of the stuff that we're doing in the town. So 4CG then, that was set up in 2010, and it was basically a society to sustain and support rural countryside. So there's 4 C's and a G in the Cymraeg version. So basically, it's owned by the people of Cardigan. They all bought shares into 4CG, and they all get a return on it every year as well. So there was this sort of buy-in in terms of how you develop the town in a way. So we were just tired of having little control over the town, how it was being developed and where we were going with it. And so 4CG is set up to support initiatives in the town. We have properties in the town, and we have low rent, or people who want to market test. So just to try and get the grassroots people to develop businesses and ideas. So we've got a range of initiatives going on, and to this day, 4CG is still doing a lot of stuff in the town. And as a result of the work that 4CG did, in 2016, they won the UK's Town Alive Award as well. One of the things that came out of 4CG and when I was mayor is that because of all these good things are happening, there wasn't a forum or a collection of people from all these different aspects of town in one place. They were all working to some extent either overlapping or in silos. So we set up a town centre partnership. It's not a constituted body, it's just literally a forum to talk and to get ideas and to bring all the great skills together. So the membership is then from a broad representation of Cardigan. So you have the creative people, the traders, the local authority, the town council, the local college, and other representatives that could help enhance or have ideas for the town. And they meet every quarter and they plan ideas, and some sort of opportunities that the town has for the quarter ahead or for the years ahead, or to learn from stuff that we're trying to do in the town. So one of the things that the Town Centre Partnership came up with was an app, going back to what we said about technology. So the app was developed in 2016-17, available for all sorts of different platforms, both Android and iPhone, available free to download in Welsh and in English. Everything you need to know about the town. So it has the shops, where to eat, some attractions. It has a guided tour on it, history, all sorts of things. You just need to look for it on the platforms under Cardigan Town. And then as a result of that as well, linked with the app, we've got all over the town what they call iBeacons. And these iBeacons have different functions. Some try and entice you into a shop, like the top example there. Get to know the best beaches, and Tonai Surf has a beacon in their shop to try and pull you in to talk to Ben about where the best place to go for a surf is in the area. He knows all the beaches. And then some of the other beacons then have more of a heritage or history element to them. So you may pick up a message outside the castle saying, take the treasure hunt and tap to find about Lord Rhys's coat of arms, and it could take you around on a tour of Cardigan. So there's not too many of these beacons, otherwise your phone will be going ping, ping, ping all the time. But there's just a few there just to entice you to do different things when you were visiting the town. And so the good thing for us, though, as a town centre partnership and the traders, is that there's data that sits behind the app that we can pull out. So just taking a screen grabs there, it shows you what are the popular shops, what kind of things are people looking for, the hospitality venues they're looking for, the eateries, what bits of history they're interested in having, what kind of age groups of people are using the app primarily, where they're from, where they're coming from to visit us. So you see with the UK map there, most people that visit Cardigan come from the southeast at the moment, down the M4 corridor. Not many coming down from North Wales for some reason, probably the transport links, I would think. But that's the kind of pattern we're getting then from that. And that is fed back as well, which I'll mention in a minute. The other thing then we also, as Town Centre Partnership did, we put a meshed single Wi-Fi network throughout the whole town so that people could jump on and use free Wi-Fi while we're in town on their phone or tablet. And again, behind the scenes, there's some data coming out of it as well for us to share with the traders and to use as the Town Centre Partnership to make decisions. So we know about traffic flow, how long people are staying, how many people are here, how often do they come to the town, are they new to the town, are they tourists, when is it quiet, when is it busy, and all this information then we can then plan and make decisions on in terms of whether we have events, what kind of reaction happens when we do hold an event. Does it have a sort of an example, a ripple effect after the event that people stay in the town longer, or there's more people in before the event happens and things like that. So it helps us also justify things like funding applications that we have for events or opportunities that we find in the town as well. And also now, because it's been in place for a couple of years now, we've got some history and we can see the effects of seasonality, and we can also see, unfortunately, the effects of COVID on Cardigan. So the green line on both those is what happened this year. We went into lockdown. One thing that we noticed this year, that the tourists came back more or less to the same level as normal, but the local people, because of shielding probably, I don't know, there weren't so many people around because we had over 130,000 people in Cardigan over the summer. And so even when we had some of the high street closed off, people did avoid coming into the town. So some of the decisions that we can make then, because of all this data, we can detect dwell time, we can see what the effects of parking policies in terms of providing free parking, and also things like whether we have the justification to having a new facility, and also try and enhance people to come and maybe open a shop in Cardigan. We can provide the information, the kind of footfall we'd expect to see at certain times of the year, and they can plan their business plan possibly around that in terms of the seasonality. And also things like when we have events. So I mentioned Fawn there at the bottom, the other voices we had last year, Cardigan Skate Park, that justification of me getting the funding to develop the park and how that would help the youngsters of the town. The Lantern Parade, which is happening every year, and the carnival, the effect that had on the town during the summer, during that week, in terms of footfall to attract people, and the dwell time, how people were staying in the town as well. So just to give you some of the examples, I'm going to run through some of the traders and how they use the information, and I'll explain after how this is done. So this is Cllr and Osian at Crust. So they align their social media around the footfall and how they open Crust up in terms of trading. We've got Rod at Mundo's. He receives the analytics, and he likes to see the whole correlation between his turnover and some of the demographic information that he has as well. And then you got TP Jackson down there. He likes the fact that it's visual because it's quite easy to understand what he's seeing then in terms of the presentation of it. We've got Anne then, who runs Crafters Kutch. Every year, apart from this year, we usually have cruises coming into Cardigan from Fishguard, and they're Americans, Germans, and all sorts. And the guides down in Fishguard provide them with the information to load the app. So the app is provided to these tourists before they come to Cardigan. It takes about 30 to 40 minutes to get to Cardigan. And so they know a bit about Cardigan before they get here. And we can look at the analytics that comes in from that then. And Anne and a few of the others are also given warning of these cruises in a couple of weeks in advance. And so some of them put American flags out in some cases so they can draw the Americans up through the high street. So that worked quite well as well. And having feedback from Anne to hear that a lot of Americans bought stuff from her shows that, because she's at one end of the town and they get dropped off at the castle, so it shows that they did go actually all the way up through the town, which is really great. Studio 3, they want hospitality. This is Susie. So she's receiving the data from the Wi-Fi system as well, and understands more about the footfall and how it compares to the kind of income that she generates. And she doesn't feel so bad when she thinks that the cafe is quiet. Well, the whole town is quiet because she can't see outside the door what's going on. So it's great for her to be able to align herself up to the kind of days we have. And then the castle then, this is Jonathan. And it's great to see the sort of pattern over the years and how we can plan events around that. And they got this is Ben from Tonai with one of the eye beacons I mentioned. So yeah, he uses the other element of the Wi-Fi, which is a quarterly newsletter. People can opt into the Wi-Fi onto a newsletter, which is all GDP covered, and that goes out every quarter to about, at the moment, 1,700 people about what's happening in Cardigan for the next 3 months, what offers are available from the shops that people can take advantage through the online offer that many of the shops now have. So the other thing then, as well as the town centre partnership, it created it identified a lot of places where there could be more events to fill in the gaps during the calendar year. So in 2017, the carnival came back. We had a barrel run sponsored by a local brewery called Mantle Beer. In 2016, the Lantern Parade was created, and last year we had Other Voices, where we worked with Dingle in County Kerry and the Irish government and the Welsh government to create a weekend event which was televised with music venues, about 12 to 50 music venues across Cardigan, with top line acts, including people like Celeste, who's now well known, and she appeared in Cardigan last year. And it was an amazing event, and we hope to have it again in the future post-COVID. Other things that we've done, as mayor, I renamed Cardigan to Jumper. and did an initiative to raise for Save the Children Christmas jumper. So this was back in 2016, 17, I think it was. So we changed all the signs in Cardigan, and we became the town of jumper, and everyone wore Christmas jumpers, and I was on BBC, Radio 5 and all sorts of things. So it was really good for the town to have a bit of a spot. We also created a Christmas market. We enhanced what we do every year in November with more local market stalls. We also changed the signage in the town to actually make use of the brand that we have for towns, because it's quite a historic town and we weren't using the brand enough. So we put some more signage up with the actual brand of the town to enhance it a bit. Also commissioned a map of the town, and it's been done by an artist, and that map is now in the form of a leaflet and in maps in all the car parks. And it's really detailed down to each individual building on the high street. And there's a QR code at the corner of every map that loads the app for you. And some other initiatives, you see the images there. We had a urban picnic where we had food that was just past its sell-by date from Tesco's and the other supermarkets, and they helped us out, and we prepared this lovely urban picnic, and all the town came together, and we had a picnic in the middle of the town, basically. And so I mentioned about how we can get small business into the town. Since August, we've had 3 new shops open in Cardigan, and I'm opening another one on the 17th of this month, and I'm taking somebody around who wants to open a shop on the 19th of this month. So it's created that sort of draw to the town, and that we can do things like this. So people can get analytics. So all the shops get the analytics information every month. They can be put on the app. They can go onto the website, and they can actually be included on the town leaflet. As well as that, you've got the support from Cardigan County Council's licensing and planning and people like that. So they've got teams that can help out, and also access to the Business Wales advisors who are operating around the Cardigan area to provide information about grants and help on business planning and cash flows and things. So we promote that sort of team of support that's available. So what we're going to do next, well, we're looking at Internet of Things using something called LoRaWAN. So what we're doing at the moment with my digital champion hat in Cardigan is looking at how we can put an IoT network across the county. And in the case of Cardigan, then, once the IoT network's in place, we can then look at how we can use sensors to detect other aspects of the town. So you could have things like parking sensors, river, we have sort of really ultra local air quality, weather information, what flower beds need watering, what bins need clearing. Instead of clearing all the bins, we just clear the public bins that need clearing, etc. Also vandalism, antisocial behavior. So these are the things we're looking at doing and developing at the moment. Stuff that normally would only happen in a big city, we can try and do it in a smaller scale in Cardigan. And then using that, we can blend that information into other data that we have to create an overall picture and maybe a town dashboard. So we have a single place to see what's going on in Cardigan, what needs sorting. I'm also working on a project to make Cardigan more carbon neutral. Within the confines of the town, just outside, we have 4.5 megawatts being generated in a renewable way. We've got a biodigester, we've got a solar farm, and we've got wind turbines all around us. And there's ways now, and an early day motion went through Parliament about an idea we have in terms of if we can get the traders of the town to jump over to an alternative way of getting their power, it'll reduce the cost by about 25%. On electricity, but it also makes Cardigan more neutral in terms of its carbon generation, basically. And also developing the nighttime economy. That's something else that we want to do. And there are things happening, what we're planning on doing, that will actually do that as well. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't go over my time.
No, you're absolutely fine on that. I'm going to go straight to Adrian, please, and then we'll take questions to you both at the end. So Adrian, if you could unmute yourself, or Ellen, there we are. Brilliant. Adrian, over to you, please. Tell us about Treorchy, because obviously some people have seen you appear on our sessions before. You've been on a really big journey in Treorchy as well, and you've won Great British High Street of the Year. Can you tell us a little bit about how important it was to understand the history of your place and how you've got to where you are now, and what your plans for the future are?
Okay, so good morning, everyone. my name's Adrian Emmett. I'm your friendly pub landlord, and I chair the Chamber of Trade in Treorchy. Very impressed with some of the things that the Clive just said, and you know, there's so many parallels between the two places. Very different towns, different struggles, but you know, if I could take a few things away from that, I think, which you're going to see in mine as well, between what Clive said, is about strong leadership, building partnerships. We can't do it alone. Cardigan and Treorchy events, you know, events are key about creating a sense of place and identity. Using technology and digitizing the high street, very impressed with what they've done there. And ultimately finding solutions, not problems. And all working together and being nice. So yeah, lots of parallels, but we've obviously carved our own path. So from my point of view, yeah, this year Treorchy was crowned the champion high street of Great Britain, and I think it's really resonated the story with people, how, you know, we've come from a left behind place of where we were. So just to give you an idea, and you know, the question that I want to pose is the high street really dead? That's what people are asking across the UK, and that there's glimmers of hope sort of dotted everywhere, but you know, is the high street really dead? So Treorchy's home to about 6,000 people. We top of the Rhondda Valley. Times are tough in South Wales, across the whole Valley regions, and you know, 10 years ago, Treorchy was no different really to other towns. So slowly sort of slipping away. So we were, you know, as the Rhondda and the Valleys, we were once the coal capital of the world, but with the loss of heavy industry, we became very much a left behind place. One of the poorest regions in Europe. This photo was taken behind my mother's house, so my grand's house, when my mother was a child. So when I finished school, I moved away to go to university, because that's what you did to make something of yourself. You had to move away. So I began working in nightclubs and different hospitality industry for about 12 years. 10 years ago, I came home, and my mother said to me, "Ed, I'd love for you to come home, but the valleys are dying, and there's no jobs here." And you know, as a community, though, we had to adapt and evolve. So out of adversity was born a real entrepreneurial mindset, and creative mindset as well. So the jobs are not here, so we had to create them ourselves. So just a quick one. This was my pub before I took it over. It was boarded up. Before that, it was run on candles, and it became a boozer for old men with red noses. And this was right in the heart of the town. So this is what welcomed you when you came to the town. So this was the Lion this Christmas, and you can see how businesses can make a difference. Now, I'm not saying it's all down to the Lion. I'm just giving you an example of this because it's my business, but all the businesses have contributed to this. So we're the hub of the community now. We've got about 15 sports teams. We sponsor attendance in schools. We've raised lots of money for charity over the years. And for me, a good community pub is more than just alcohol. The same as a good school is more than just grades. You know, a good teacher can instill a creative mindset in a child to sort of ignite a fire that will burn inside them, as well as, I think, an innovative and creative pub can have the same positive effect on the community. So I'm a big advocate of pubs. I think pubs are the solution, not the problem, as long as they are well run and sort of community pubs. So Treorchy. So this is a few other pictures of the pub now. Treorchy. It's now a vibrant and unique high street. We've got over 80% independent businesses, the majority of which are run by women. So we're very much in the minority in Treorchy. Our success has come from our established businesses, so some third generation. And we've had about 30 new businesses that have opened up in the past 3 years, 5 of them since lockdown. So again, very similar story to Cardigan. With us, it seems that lockdown has just put the pause button on. It hadn't stopped something. And you know, as soon as we've come out of this, there's an appetite for people to come to the high street. So it's very much been built on good foundations. And we've got about a 97% occupancy on the high street, and I think the 4 shops or so, 5 shops that's available are all being done out, and there's, I think within a couple of months there'll be a waiting list. Treorchy is more than just retail, so we've created a really sticky street in Treorchy. So people love what we do, and they want to spend more time on the high street and come back more often. So high streets are more than just retail, they need to be experiences. So it's our cafes and bars, it's the meeting your friend on the high street. So it's because if it's just about retail, they can get that from the internet or big department stores or, you know, retail stores. So it's all about creating a sense of place, and people want to go there, and while they're there, they buy something. So it's not just about retail. So how has this happened? So a little under, well, just over now, I think 2 years ago, I became chair of the Treorchy Chamber of Trade. We had about 30 members. We successfully applied for some grant funding from Pen y Cymoedd, who the local wind farms that have helped us along this journey. And we launched the Visit Treorchy brand with a website, social media sites, quarterly town booklets. We now have about 120 proactive members working smarter to achieve our shared goals. And that's by building partnerships and sharing resources. So we're all here to sort of help each other. We established our first bid, which went live in April this year. So there's real momentum in the town as well. In partnership with the Council Art Service, we held a workshop last year on designing public values with purpose. So we worked for a couple of days on this, and we posed a question we felt needed asked in Treorchy, based on the theory of change as we understood it, which was how might we creatively bridge the different generations in Treorchy to ignite a sense of place, identity, and belonging that can be enjoyed by all. So based along that question is how we've sort of done the roadmap for the town. And from this, we want to develop a project based on storytelling. Last year, Treorchy was successfully chosen as one of 2 towns in the UK by Carnegie Trust to take part in our storytelling project, Talk of the Town. And the event took place in February this year in the Parkendale Theatre and was well attended. The guys from the IWA were there, as well as Carnegie UK. And there's lots of projects along this, which you're going to see in the future now. The regeneration has been driven by community-minded entrepreneurs taking ownership of the town. So it's a very much bottom-up approach, but it's been in partnership with the local authority and supported by the local community. So, it's a triangle of that we sort of, I think in the past, the local authority was seen as the man, and, you'd go into meetings and people would be having a go saying, why are now bins being collected? And, why is the tarmac cracked outside in front of my road? That sort of mindset was changed into working together, and it's skyrocketed since. So that's a picture of a booklet last year for Christmas. So what are we good at? We're good at working together and building partnerships in the town. So we got great working relationships with the schools, and they are heavily involved in all our events as well, and that's all the different schools in the area. This is an example of a project that they did on the high street. That's just 2 of my pub that I put up there, but that's a Treorchy Primary School took the high street as a project then, and what their favourite shops were and their experience. We organise community cleanups, bringing multiple groups of people together, and it's about building an increased sense of pride and ownership in the community. And obviously, it's a great thing to do as well, making the town look nice and clean. Great working relationships with the police. They're involved in all our events, and not out of necessity, out of choice. So they want to be involved in these things. Same goes for the fire brigade. So they put the bunting up in the street this year. They put the Christmas trees up and the flags. We work with them to do the town firework display. So it's very much, there's a thread going through. It's about partnerships. We couldn't do it alone. We're a very small town. We haven't got any resources. So it's about helping each other out. We're a very creative community. So we commissioned one of our members to create this, amazing caricature of the town. again, similar ideas to what Cardigan are doing. It's different ways of doing things. I was more of a caricature, but it was about creating sense of pride. So this now is painted as a mural on my pub wall. It's also a large banner. If you can see a small little girl in the corner, her along with about 20 to 30 other kids coloured that in, and that's going to be one of our sort of artworks in the town as well. Our Christmas shop window competition is fierce, and it's grown year on year, and it's really helped create a sticky street as well, as we keep on saying, because people just come to look at the shop windows and then, oh, I like that, I'll go and buy that item as well, and it creates a sense of, again, another sense of place and pride in the area. And then one of our other projects, this was a beaten up wall that welcomed you when you came off the train station in the town. The local authority helped us by jet washing the wall. The local paint shop gave us some free paint to paint it, and a local artist just done a Visit Treorchy sign on it, and it was all done for free, and that's the community coming around. So last year we held the first Rhondda Pride. It was an amazing day with all the businesses getting involved, and it elevated the town to a new level as well, and it brought so many new visitors to the high street. And this year we're going to be, well, we would have been, should we say next year now, it's going to be bigger and better again, and we're adding different sites to it. Another big event that we do is Rhondda Pride, which is in the town. Last year was the second Rhondda Pride. Lots of big name acts, as well as dozens of smaller events throughout June. It was over 3 nights. We held the first open air cinema. This is the Park and Dare, by the way, which is just off the high street. Yeah, so we held the first open air cinema and beer festival for 500 people. And then this year's festival was going to be, which will become next year's festival now. We're looking at about 5,000 people. So really growing this into becoming a big event for the town. But by far, my favorite event is the Christmas event. It's grown from a small lantern parade into something Disney be proud of. And, you know, talking about stories, what resonates with me is one old lady said to me last year, she was filling up and said, I can't believe this is in my town. So that's the sort of effect we can have by all coming together and creating events. And it's really helped create a sense of pride in our area, and a sense of place as well. We got lots of things coming up to celebrate the Champion High Street. We were looking at creating Treorchy Day. It was Tom Jones's birthday this year, so we were going to do Tom Fest. Everyone wearing big wigs and hairy chests, and Tom Jones tributes throughout the town. And through the bid, we're looking at doing the first Treorchy Food Festival as well. So it's really events have shown us that it brings the town together and drives footfall as well. We're also very good at telling our story and promoting ourselves, which I think is really important. There's a lot of towns that are doing some really good things, but only the people within that town or went to that event know about it. So we've always got photographers and videographers and things like that.
Adrian, thank you. I'm going to draw you to a close, please, in a tick.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so this is just one little story. The Champion High Street, the heavens opened up, the bunting fell down, and we started off on a terrible footnote, but the whole community came together. We had about 250 people involved on the day, and it was a real, that we missed the MP, we missed the mayor, but it showed what a community can do through adversity as well. And so just closing up then, what's next? It's about where do we go from here in a new pandemic world? We got Zip World coming next year, the potential Rhondda Tunnel, the metro system coming, which will bring us closer to Cardiff. So we're working with Cardiff Uni and some of our other partners. I think one is on this call now, about how do we go forward? How do we, without having big events and things like that, how do we use the Champion High Street as a stepping stone for greater things? So, we don't need to be the best, we can be where we want to be. And I think Treorchy will have a ripple effect across the other valley towns now. So is the high street really dead? Not if we don't want it to be. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Adrian. And I know you've got a video to share. Maybe we can share the link in the chat if that's possible, or afterwards to delegates. I'll leave that with you and Ellen to just figure out. I've got some questions that have been coming through, and I know that there'll be questions coming through for Adrian too. First of all, can we just go back to Clive? We've got a question from Jeremy Martineau. What's the pattern of ownership of commercial properties, Clive, in Cardigan?
Pattern ownership in terms of the majority of the ones on the high street are owned by the people who run the shops.
Okay.
There are a few that aren't, but the majority. So I'll give you an example. There's a shop that's opened in August, but the owners are in Fishguard. And as mayor, I asked them whether they could just help us a little bit. So they offer the shop free of rent for the year. And so the shop that's in there now, she's done really well out of it. And I want to try and duplicate that with other empty properties. We've got about 3 empty shops left in Cardigan at the moment on the main high street. So yeah, majority of the owners actually live within the area of the town.
That's
so,
one of the things we heard from Dumfries yesterday was a lot of absentee landlords or pension funds buying properties, but that's not the problem that you have, obviously.
No, there are a few.
Such high occupancy.
There's a couple, but we know where they live.
That sounds very threatening.
It is. I'm going to say that because we've got some people that aren't in the area and they don't look after the building, and so they get letter after letter after letter from the mayor or from the local authority in terms of making improvements they need to do.
Gradual attrition. You don't want to be on the wrong side of Clive. Okay, another question, this one from Vivian Sugar, who's a member of our consortium too. Hello, Viv. Could you tell us some more, please, about how it was all financed originally, Clive? And there's a follow-on question from Ed Humphreys about the app. If it's open house with no budget, who owns the app and the data it produces and runs and finance and funds the project? Excuse me.
So lots of, with the town centre partnership, that was set up just as a forum to talk. So when we saw an opportunity like the app, like the Wi-Fi, we sought pots of money, grants. So some of the people on the town centre partnership are quite good at writing grant applications. And we also had the guys at the local authority to feed into that as well. So for the, so some of the events, for example, so there was lottery funding involved, there's coastal communities funding involved, there was European funding involved, there was local authority funding involved. Depending on what the thing was, we went for the money. So with the Wi-Fi, it was a mixture of European funding and more local authority money. The app was a coastal communities initiative, and then leading on to the who owns what, all the data from the Wi-Fi and the app is owned by the town council. The town council interprets that information and gives it out as data into information that gives it out to it's about 120 traders that get that information every month then, in terms of a visual sort of presentation, in terms of an email.
That's I'm going to use my executive authority as chair of the conversation. Did you have to do much to help people understand and realize how to analyze what was coming through, or did you just sort of suck it and see and have grown that capacity over the last couple of years? It's
grown in capacity, but I think they've become more smarter now, more recently. And the other thing is I try and go and see them and speak to each, of the visitors myself, because, I know everybody on that street. And then I say, well, from this, that means you could do this, or I don't tell them how to run the business. It's up to each individual shop to be open at the right time, to have the right product in the window, but we can try and generate the footfall to make them go to their shop, and it's up to them really to see what they can do. Because with COVID this year now, there was some shops that sort of saw a different opportunity and adjusted their offer a little bit,
But you'd be ahead of the game having it already in place, which is a huge advantage, isn't it, in order to be able to see those trends. Another question around how you involve young people in deciding what goes on and who's involved in that, because there's a massive opportunity here with the data that you've got to engage, for instance, some of your sixth formers in your local school in terms of what they want to see, or young people who want a job and want to stay, rather than feel that they have to leave, which is what both you and Adrian have talked about, thinking you have to go somewhere else before you come back.
Yeah.
How have you, and also social media and the fact that it is a techie thing, and there are future jobs in tech. There are opportunities there to involve young people in helping you analyse and suggest, oh, that could work. Because what comes through from me very strongly from both your presentations is there's a lot of fun going on in both your places too. It's not only about the money. It's about the fun of what you're doing too.
Yeah, it's an experience. Adrian said as well. You've got to create that experience of going to the town centre and to make people stay and dwell and enjoy. And going back to the youth question, yeah, on the partnership is Cllr Cardigan, and some ideas came out from using the students in the college who wanted to go from learning and then creating a business out of it. So with my 4CG hat on, we've helped young businesses start in the town and to be able to market test what they've got. And I want to do more of that with the college, because the college has got a raft of really talented people coming out of there. And as is with many places in Wales, they go away. But if we can create that opportunity within the town, that would be great. So one of the things that are happening now in the next year or two is that the Guildhall Market, which is the main building in the middle of the town, that's received a large heritage grant now. And so the Guildhall Market will be redone inside. It's going to enhance its features. We're going to have the capability then of having things like a youth market. So one of the things I wanted to do this year, but I couldn't because of the COVID, was to create a youth market with sixth formers and the college. So with the Guildhall Market being redone, and it's all going to be done up nicely, it'll allow people to be able to start a business. So I mentioned Osian and Catrin from Crust in my presentation. They started in that market selling donuts. They now employ about 12 people. And that's in a space of 3 to 4 years. So, these are the things that we're trying to do and develop in Cardigan in terms of that sort of sector of society.
Great, thank you very much. Adrian, I got a question for you, please, from Edward Humphreys, who says, he recognises obviously a really positive local authority role, but how was your town council involved as the local democratically elected reps of the community and the three sectors, public, private and voluntary? Were they all equally engaged and influential in what he says is fantastic, marvellously brilliant work that you've been doing in Treorchy?
Yeah, I think, we didn't have a plan. It was kind of, I'm the pub landlord and I sort of fell into this role. But you could see that the more positive we were doing, the more people were getting involved. And it was very much about being inclusive, working with the schools. The councillors are excellent as well. The council themselves, and lots of charity partners as well. I see James on here from Player Against Sport. That's just one of the partners we work with. So from the third sector, and it's about being inclusive for everyone, from the youngest person to the oldest person. And there's an open sharing of ideas and things like that. But one thing that strikes me again, what Clive just said, and the what's the same as Cardigan, is that it's all about local independent businesses. Because if you've got skin in the game, if you live in that town and your kids go to school there and you've grown up there and you care more about that town, and you don't shut your shop at 5 o'clock and then go home, you're willing to stay till 6 or do a bit extra and go to a town meeting. We've got large companies, we've got Superdrug and Boots and things like that in Iceland. I think you need them. You can't have 100% independent. You do need a sprinkle of the nationals, but the more independent you can be, I think the stronger and the more foundations that town has got then.
And what kind of engagement did you have with those bigger national chains? Did you get pushback, or was it more a sort of, this is what we can offer, take it or leave it? How did it work?
With the national, because we're 80% independent, it's mainly dealing with those first, and it's easier because you can speak to the owner when you walk in that shop, and they can see the benefit of that. It was incredibly difficult to speak to the larger chains because, for every good chamber of trade, there's probably 2 or 3 that are not that good. So to them, they've seen it all before, and every year maybe the manager changes. But we showed them through actually what we were doing. So we proved that we were worth getting involved with. So now Barclays are a member, the Co-op are a member, Superdrug. So a lot of them are members now. Domino's are a member. And as soon as I was almost a bit like in Live Aid, where you go to Queen and say that one band is involved, and you then go to that band and say the Queen's involved. You play them off each other, and that's what you've got to do. You've got to do whatever it takes to get these people involved. Yeah,
tactics. But one thing that come through from what you just said is show, don't tell, I think, which is really, really important. Great. Got a question from Johan Bellin for both of you. Clive, I'm going to come to you first, please. How do you think that these models can be transferred to other communities, and how do you see coronavirus impacting on town development?
I think the key thing, like Adrian said, is this partnership working. If you can identify who the doers and the right people to have round a table, pull a meeting together and see what comes out. That's what we did with the town centre partnership. We just said, right, let's just get people interested in getting the town to move forward in one direction, rather than pulling against or working in silos or just overlapping. I think that's the thing, is try and identify who the doers are, who are the organisation, who the bodies are, and pull them together. Just have a Zoom meeting in these days, and see what comes out of it, and then try and gradually develop that structure, and maybe have a bit of a plan, have some ideas, have some inspiration from that. And then what was the second part? Was the COVID side.
Yeah, how do you see that impacting on town development?
Well, it certainly picked up the ears of Welsh Government in terms of how it looks at funding and how important town centres are. And then the whole issues with independence. We've seen so many chains disappearing now from the high street. So those that had heavy number of chains have turned some high streets, unfortunately, to a lot of empty shops, and large empty shops too. In Cardigan, just like in Treorchy, it's mostly independents, and they're a bit more nimble, a bit more resilient, and be able to change the offer. In terms of COVID in Cardigan, we had a sort of a trial of closing the high street. It did split the town a little bit.
Closing it to traffic, you mean?
Yes, to traffic, because of social distancing. But it did come out with ideas in terms of how we could improve in terms of how we do our parking, maybe the traffic management, and possibly helping the hospitality in a different way as well. So we've learned stuff out of it. It hasn't been totally negative, although it has sort of knocked us back. But as Adrian said, it's put us on pause, definitely, because all the stuff I had planned for this year, it's just gone onto the onto the list for next year, or for the next 2 or 3 years. So it is literally that, putting us on pause. But it just has opened opportunities. I think that's it's not nothing. I can't see too much negativity in it, but it certainly created more opportunities that I didn't know about, and it certainly opened my eyes into other ways of actually developing the high street, really.
Okay, thank you. Adrian, same for you. How do you think that, you and I have talked before about how Treorchy has broken down some of the kind of relationships of competition between other places in the Rhondda, and how that is other people are feeding off the success that you're having as well in a positive way. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and how other people are learning from what you're doing in Treorchy, and how you see COVID impacting on the development not only of Treorchy but also excuse me, of other towns in the Rhondda?
Yeah, so I want to start by saying that I don't pretend to have all the answers,
None of us do. That's okay.
But all I do is say this was our journey, and this is what we found, and this is what we've learnt. And I think sometimes that carries a lot more weight than no offense if someone's on you from a local authority, but when you come in from the council, the independent person might say, but you don't run a shop, you don't do this, you don't know our struggles. So it comes from a different place. And we have definitely seen that the success of Treorchy has had a ripple effect across the valley towns, at least, and it's going wider as well. An example of that is Treorchy, our neighbouring town. In the Rhondda, it's incredibly tribal. We've beaten each other up on the rugby field for generations. But now your neighbouring town shouldn't be your enemy. They're in the trenches with you. Internet is your enemy, and out in town department stores is your enemy. So it's about working together. So during lockdown, there's a couple of really good business people up there that had an energy to start a chamber of trade. So we help them with that. They've now got 45 members up there in their first Chamber of Trade, and they're really going places. And it's about building partnerships. So we're going to put a group together now, sort of a Rhondda wide group, so we share resources and ideas. And it's things like this. I think, you know, you might think face-to-face meetings are great, and I think there's definitely a place for that. But I probably couldn't have attended this event today because I got something else at 2:00. So the fact that this is online enables me to do multiple things throughout the day. So I think there is, you know, things there. And I think from the COVID point of view, I actually think handled well, you know, this could be the turning point for towns and small, especially small towns. You know, the big cities have you know, raped and pillaged for years and taken away from, you know, drained our resources, our people. The valleys, for example, is a steady stream every day of people leaving the valleys to go to Cardiff and elsewhere. And I think that might turn it around. You know, our local authority, I think, have got about 14,000 people working for them, RCT. The majority of those now are working from home, and they all live in these small towns. So I think there's definitely going to be handled well, you know, this, you know, and embracing technology and digitizing high streets. I think, you know, it's forced us to change and to adapt. And there's things, my pub, for example, I got a booking system now. I've got an app to order drinks, which I've always wanted to do, but it was a big thing to do. Now I had to do it. It forced me. So I think it's about embracing the adversity and you know, comes opportunity.
Yeah, it accelerates that change, doesn't it? And we know obviously that Welsh Government's target is to have 30% of people working from home in future. And we've talked about some of those implications and what that means for different places in the previous 2 days of this festival. I've got a question here for both of you. One of the things we've also talked about is how important it is to have mixed use on the high street, so people also living there too. And that was a strong message coming through from Matt Baker's presentation about Dumfries yesterday. Could I come to you, Clive, first with, have you seen any return of housing to the high street so that it becomes a place to be and not just a place to visit, shop and have experience, but it's a place to live?
Yeah, there's, well, a lot of the high street's got flats on it, but there have been flats just on the outskirts of the high street that are flats being built at the moment, and I can see further developments on that. There's also more accommodation coming into the town as well. We've got the old police station's been converted into a bunkhouse, so you can now sleep in a cell when you're visiting Cardigan. But yeah, there are flats being developed in terms of housing. The wider community, I'm not sure what the developments along in terms of the little local development plan that's being worked on at the moment. But yeah, Cardigan is growing, I got to say. But like Adrian said, you know, I don't want to lose the character of what the town centre is all about, and that's uniqueness, the sense of place, and everything. But yeah, there is a mix of you know, accommodation and housing coming into the town.
Okay, Adrian, how about you? I mean, you've got some really active housing associations, haven't you, in your particular area? Are you well linked in with them in terms of what housing is available, and what does the high street look like? Do people live above their shops or above their whatever their business is?
Yeah, so you mentioned Rhondda Housing Association. So Rhondda Housing in our area, very engaged with the community. You know, they're almost not a housing association; they're more of a community group now. You know, they really work within the community, and you know, again, that's one of the partners we can call upon. You know, as far as housing, it's actually gone the opposite way in Treorchy. There's flats going and shops opening, simply because of the makeup of Valley Town. There's street after street after street behind the high street, so it's not technically on the high street. But I think Treorchy is a tapestry. You know, there's lots of different parts to it. Definitely one of those parts is that a lot of people live around the area. So there's, like I said, we were built around the mines. So wherever there was a plot of land or a hill, there was a house built, you know, and there was row after row after row. So there's lots of people that live and work around the high street. But what we're seeing is some of the flats, because there's a need for new businesses to come, a lot of these flats are getting converted into small businesses, which are great. One shop, which was a little bit big, is now been turned into 3 shops. So there's 3 thriving businesses in there, as opposed to one that might have been struggling because of rates and rent and stuff. And then there's little you know, one person living above a flat can now be a hairdresser's, or can be a small business or a tattoo parlor. So we're actually seeing in a different direction, but that's because we've got so many people living there.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Really fantastic sessions from you both. Really, thank you very much indeed. And I know you've inspired a lot of people listening here today. We're going to hand over to our workshop session leaders now and divide you into the breakout rooms that you registered for when you registered for the whole event. So option A is Chris Jones. Chris, can you just give us a wave, please? Brilliant. One of our UWP consortium members. He's going to walk you through town audits, place plans and community visioning, and sharing the various different models and toolkits on offer, because obviously that qualitative stuff is so important, as we've been hearing, as well as the data. And Understanding Welsh Places gives you that data too. Option B is a planning and data clinic. Bring your challenges and questions for Understanding Welsh Places, and we've got Sam Wizard and Hannah Deneen. Can you guys give us a wave as well, please, on the screen so people know who to look for? And then option C, we've got community wealth building in Wales. The Centre for Local Economic Strategies, Cllr, is examining approaches to community wealth building and how we can incorporate that into our own communities. And Ellie Ratcliffe is here from Cllr. So we're going to divide you up now, and you will find yourself, as if by magic, in a breakout room, and then you will come back. Again, you don't have to do a thing. There will be a kind of count for those of you who haven't done breakout rooms on Zoom before, and there may be some of you still out there. There will be a thing that just brings you back into the main session as well before, where we'll move on to networking after that. So best of luck, and see you on the other side of your breakout session. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. So you may not be surprised to know that Ellen was super organised and had it all set up brilliantly in advance, but for some reason Zoom didn't play ball. So I apologise for that. And well done, Ellen, in sticking with it and making it happen. So we just done one breakout session, because if nothing else, we will, well, there's been plenty else this morning, but we are going to stick to time because your time is precious. I just really want to say thank you very much indeed for everybody for coming. We hope you've got some really useful stuff out of it today, this morning. We also particularly want to thank our funders, the Carnegie UK Trust, for helping, well, for making UWP in the first place and helping making these events possible. We'll hopefully do more of these sorts of things over the coming months too. There's obviously lots to talk about, and if there's anything that we can do to link people up with one another, please just let us know. We're really grateful to all of you for coming and spending time with us this morning. I know that there's been lots of ideas and chats sparked from the conversations today and the brilliant presentations that we've had. Ellen's put her email address in the chat, so do please get in touch with her if you've got any other questions. We're going to look at, we've just been talking in our breakout room about putting all the presentations and things on one page on our website, so it's a one-stop shop for everything from today. If you're not already a member of the IWA, do please consider joining us. We're extremely valuable and very good value too. One of the things I think that we're really finding is that a lot of the conversations happen in either in particular places and need to reach outside, or happen in particular sectors and reach outside. So one of the things that we do a lot of is really bridging sectors, trades and interests. We don't represent anybody. We're just here to spark bright ideas and connections and get people to think about all the longer term ideas that can help boost Wales's future. So do please go to our website and find out about other IWA events coming up. There are recordings of all our UWP stuff on our website too, and also fantastic back catalogue of things. So if you want to have a look at what particular members of the Senate looked like 10 years ago, now's your chance, go and have a look. You can join us as a member at iwa.wales, about us and support us. It is bang on the money of midday. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. Diolch yn fawr.